So email marketing, writing emails that actually work. And I just want to start with some proof. So Mike Conyu basically came through and wrote a Slack message for us, letting us know that he just wanted to share that he's hosting a mega 5-day training event in June. He had a few signups, but they launched their second day of their email using SmartList, but also stepping out and using batch schedules for contacts to warm, old, or never used contacts in the past. And his results this far are awesome. So they were doing a giveaway, a give, ask strategy, right? So 2 gives and an ask. So 2 emails that are based around just content and value, and then 1 asking for a sale. And with phase 1 being grip tips and mechanics and a soft call to action. Tomorrow's email will be tribal and community based, like, about the tribe and about the community. They already have a 40% open rate and a 4% click-through rate. And this is 3 weeks ago. I can't wait to hear from him on the update. He only had 7 unsubscribes and 7 bounces. So he's sitting at a 41% open rate. That's huge. Remember, our open rate goal should be 20%. 30% is awesome. 41% is amazing. 60% you should write home to your mom and say that you've won the internet, because that is just fantastic. Your goal is always a 4% click-through rate. And you'll see as time goes by, 4% click-through rates are not easy to get, and they are much more important than the open rates. Open rates can be deceived a lot of the times by, different ad blockers, or Apple does things differently, but that click-through rate is pretty reliable because it works on a different system than your email reporting back to the software. So that's usually pretty accurate. And so 7 unsubscribes, 0 spam complaints. This is the give, ask motion that we talked about last week in action. And so he shared a screenshot also, 634 emails delivered, 7 emails, that bounced and that were the unsubscribes. And there's his 40% open rate. So again, industry average 20 to 25%. This is what happens when you do it right. And so what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover a lot. The anatomy of an email. I'm literally going to break it down. What is an email? For those of us who are not used to sending emails, we're going to break it down. Subject lines, they're going to get open. This is based on my past experience. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I use to get those emails open. Curiosity wins over being clever, and clear wins over being cute. So curiosity over clever, clear over cute. I'm also going to talk about spam trigger words and what words to avoid in subject lines and emails. I'm going to talk about writing like a human and not a brand. And for those of us who are just going to ChatGPT and creating an email, we're going to talk about that a lot today too, because ChatGPT should give you a foundation of ideas, but then it's time for you to be a human about that. Remove the emojis. Then we're going to talk about the opening line, which is the most important sentence that you'll ever write. Writing the body, short, simple, and scannable. The resend to unopened strategy that I use when people don't open my emails. I use a decision-making diamond inside of an automation to resend to people who have not opened within a certain amount of time. And then reading your stats, what the actual numbers mean. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to have time to go through this. If not, I'm going to have to break it into 2 parts, but I'm really excited about today because it is so in-depth. So every part of your email has one job, right? We say this all the time. You have one job, right? And that's kind of what I want you guys to envision here. You have one job, and every part of your email has exactly one job. So your subject line, the only reason it exists is to get the open. I want you to think of the subject line as the wrapping paper or the envelope around the GIF or around the letter, right? And when you start to see the same subject line over and over and over, or you see a subject line that answers the question, what's in the email? Well, we should not be answering the question, what's in the email? Because we want them curious. Remember, curiosity wins over clever. Clear wins over cute. So your preview text is a second chance to earn the open. So we've got the subject line, and then we've got the preview text. And the preview text is the second opportunity for you to earn that open. It's almost like a second subject line. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. Then your opening line is your first sentence. You want to hook them just like a video. First 3 seconds, you win or lose the whole email forever. Because what they're going to do is they're going to scan straight to the bottom and look for how much the price is. That's what they're going to do. They're going to look to the bottom line. What is the bottom line? They're going to scan. And if the hook and the call to action are enticing enough, they'll go back and start over. That's typically what happens. Your body is where you deliver the value, if it's a give, or make the case for the sale or the click, if it's an ask. And then your call to action is always one link, one action, make it impossible to miss. So this is why I'm not a big fan of newsletters. I'm not a big fan of sending out an email to a list that has 15 different things in it, because we're dealing with people that have busy lives. If this is important enough for us to interrupt them with an email, it's important enough to make the email about one thing, one link, one action, make it impossible to miss. And then a postscript statement, which I love to use all the time. I like to put jokes in there. I like to put, I restate the CTA. Skimmers, again, they scan that. They go from the top to the bottom, then back up to the top if it makes sense. And so I like to put jokes in my PS. I like to do, I want to reward them by looking at that and get them to rewatch that email, right? And so the subject line's only job is to get the open. Everything else is secondary. So you want to keep your subject line under 50 characters, under 50 characters, because most people are reading their email on their phone. Most inboxes cut off subject lines after about 40 to 50 characters. And if your subject line is too long, the most important words are cut off in the first place. So what I do when I write my subject line is I take the subject line that ChatGPT gives to me, and I almost all the time throw it out the window because it's terrible. And what I want to do is I want to take the most important words, the words that are going to get the attention the most, and bring them forward. So just this morning, I did a video and I was creating a piece of content, and it was a very difficult video for me to say because I had a bunch of words before the word gun, and I wanted to bring the word gun forward so that in my hook of my video, I say the word gun sooner so that people can see that sooner, right? People can hear that sooner. The hook has emerged sooner. And so I twisted my words in a way that I used gun in the beginning. We want to do that with our subject lines. The most important words should be the first thing that they see. The most captivating words, or the words that are going to get them curious, are the ones that should move forward. The least important should be over to the right. And if your subject line is too long, again, it's getting cut off. So the rule is say everything you need to say in 6 to 8 words, like literally 6 to 8 words, right? Bad. Exciting new concealed carry class this Saturday morning, right? Good. 3 spots left, Saturday CCW class. Now, this to me isn't as curiosity driven as I'd like to see, but it is urgency based, but it's not really curiosity. So what I would do is I would change this just a little bit. 3 spots left in this class you don't want to miss, right? So what class is it? And then they click, and then they get to see what class it is, right? So clever, out the window, it's forgettable. Curious is irresistible. So what I want you to do in a subject line is open a loop. I want you to start a story that they have to open and finish, right? Like my example before. 3 spots left in the class you don't want to miss. Well, what class don't I want to miss? And then we start the subject line, and we start the first line of the email, and it's, hey, the reason you don't want to miss this class is XYZ, the benefit. Then we announce the class. We don't want to give them the answer right when they click and they see the first line. We want to give them benefits first to get them even more excited. And then we don't want that information to be a letdown, because that's when they're going to unsubscribe, right? So here's an example. I almost made a huge mistake of the range yesterday. Awesome to open a story. We had Dick here last week, Dick Abramson, who has years and years and years. That man's resume is amazing. And he taught us that long form works in email, and that we should be telling stories and giving long form. Lots of white space, long form. Telling these types of stories is a win. We can make a bold or unexpected claim. Most gun owners are doing this wrong. In fact, that's a great subject line. Ask a question that people want the answer to. Do you know what your open rate should be, right? So the goal is they have to open it to resolve the tension, right? To resolve the answer. So one of the problems is that spam filters are reading your subject line by line before your subscriber even sees it, right? Before it even makes it in their inbox. So spam trigger words are words that are going to get you in the spam trap all the time. Free. I'm telling you, free, guaranteed, act now, limited time, click here, you've been selected. All of these are spam mail, just like this is what spam mail exists to weed out. And so I want you to stay away from these things. We don't need to say that the product is free or guaranteed or act now in the subject line. We just need to get them curious. And saying something is free is just a way to land in that spam mail. So the fix is say the same thing in plain human language, right? Instead of free, I'm giving you this at no cost. Instead of act now, spots are going fast, here's the link. And only use that scarcity. We've talked about this before. Only use spots are going fast, here's the link, if that's true. Because this is the worst kind of urgency or scarcity. That spots are going fast is an element of scarcity, which is an element of amount. And if your classes are not filling up, don't say they are. Because when they get there and there's 13 people in a class and you can fit 60, they're like, in the back of their mind, they're thinking about that, right? Now, your subscribers, look, even especially in the world of AI, emails are increasing. The amount of emails and text messages that they get, it's increasing. The amount of robocalls that they get, it's all increasing. And your subscribers can smell a marketing email from a mile away. So write like a person, not a brand, and not like ChatGPT. Take out the emojis. ChatGPT killed emojis for all humans forever. So use first person, saying I and you and not we or clients, right? Our team has put together a great training opportunity. I've put together something that I think you're going to love. Use contractions. Don't write do not unless you specifically are being super bold about it. Write don't. Just talk like a human. And keep your sentences short. White space, right? So sentence, space. Just allow them to scan it and breathe it and just understand it. And one of the things that I literally love to do is I read it aloud before I send it. In fact, this is something that I did with my book. When I wrote my book, it's 250, 300 pages. I read that book out loud, every line, word for word. That was my editing. And when you're doing that, you're forced to see the grammatic errors. You're forced to see the typos by reading it out loud line by line. Because if it sounds like a brochure and it sounds like something you wouldn't say in conversation, rewrite it. The spam filters know that that's what that is also, right? So again, things to avoid. Free concealed carry class this weekend. 7 exclamation points. Bad, bad, bad. Good to use. Spots are almost gone. Saturday CCW class. In fact, what I would do in this one is take it a step further in Saturday class. Spots are almost gone in Saturday's class, right? So the fear of missing out is what would make me click that one, is what am I missing out on if I don't go? Act now, limited time offer in our classes. I see this all the time, right? Better, I'm saving you a seat. Here's the link. Super curiosity driven. You've been selected for a special discount. Super salesy. Something I want to give you this week. Much better. Click here to register for our next event. Are you coming Saturday? Right? This is a headline, right? What am I coming to? What am I being invited to? I don't want to miss out. Guaranteed results from our training program. Better, what happened after 3 weeks of dry fire practice? Right? This is what happened. This is what happened. And even more specifically, this is what happened to Jim after 3 weeks of dry fire practice, right? And then telling the story. So next is the opening line, the most important sentence you'll ever write in your copy. Hi, contact, first name, I hope you're doing well. I used to do this so often. In fact, every once in a while, I catch myself writing manual follow-ups. I did all of my follow-ups for NSSF recently, and I started catching myself doing this. Hey, Charlie, I hope you're doing well. It was great to see you at NSSF. How boring is that, right? It kills the momentum immediately. Like, you've just gotten them to take action. We want to reward that action. Whether it's a personal email that we write or an email we send in Momentum HQ, we want to give them a reward. So what I want you to do is pull them in immediately. It's got to feel like it was written just for them. It's got to create enough tension that they have to keep reading to satisfy the tension, right? Just like we do in a hook on a video. When we create a hook out of curiosity or tension, they need to get the resolve, the end result of the tension. So think of it like a line of a great movie. You don't open with the backstory. You open in the middle of something. And I do this in my book all the time, right? So the first line of each chapter, it's actually the highest tension part of a story. So if I'm talking about my long, creepy driveway when I first started teaching, right? As you guys know, I had a long, creepy driveway. And as people would come down the driveway, they would come out of their cars and they were super nervous and they were super unsure, right? And so one of my chapters, I actually wrote, we're driving through this driveway. To the right is a swamp. To the left is a swamp. We're heading to a class from somebody that we've never known in our lives. We've never met before. and they promised that they're going to teach us guns. And now we're unsure if we need that gun that we brought to class to be loaded. And then I say, that was the feeling that every student has as they came down the driveway to my first concealed carry classes. And so I had to make the most amazing experience the moment they stepped out of their car. And so by giving that tension, they have to know what the end result is. You're captivated. You're leaning in on your seat. You're really eager to find out, right? So start the story in progress, right? Last Tuesday, I watched a student freeze up on the range and it changed how I teach, right? Good way to start your story. And then apply it to them. Lead with the bold, specific claim. Most gun owners have never practiced the one drill that matters under stress. Ask a question that hits a real pain point. When's the last time you actually trained? Not just shot at the range. Like, this is actually really good. And this can be used as a way to wake up range members who haven't set foot in your facility for a while, like Josh and Jim, or Josh and everybody that owns a range here. Do this, Josh, Jeff. Do this. When's the last time you actually trained? Not just shot at the range, right? Wake people up to get them back in. So more weak examples. Hi, Joe. Hope you're doing well. Strong. I almost canceled this class. Here's why I didn't, or I'm glad I didn't. We wanted to reach out about our upcoming event. Weak. Something happened at the range this week that I want to tell you about, right? Here's an example. We wanted to tell you about our upcoming event that is our new shooter accelerator. We want you in, and that's the idea. But instead of starting it with that, we start it with something happened at the range this week that I have to tell you about. Somebody got hurt with a slide and they needed stitches on their thumb because they held the gun the wrong way. And if you're serious about jumping into firearm training, I want you to come in so that never happens to you. Here's the new shooter accelerator, right? As a valued member of our community, again, lame. I wouldn't be interested in that. I get that from American Express. I don't need that from my gun dealer, right? Strong. You're making a mistake that most gun owners never catch. Super strong. This should get us excited to write these emails. I'm excited to go back and write emails. I'm writing to let you know about our sale. No, that's so boring and lame. I saved you a seat, but I need to hear from you today, right? That is FOMO to the fullest extent. Nobody's going to read wall of text. I want you to write for skimmers. So if you notice on this page, I did this intentionally, okay? So one, I've got my bold headline and then the example. Bold headline and example. Bold headline and example. I want you to write your emails in this fashion, is that they can skim through and put the sentences together and have a collection. And I've said 1,000 times, guys, I teach at 3rd grade reading level. That's what I teach at. Not because I think that my firearm instructors are dumb, but because I don't want people to struggle to interpret, right? We were at NSSF recently, and it was really interesting. They put a video on the board. In fact, Jim, if you can find this video, that'd be great. Real quick, if you can find this. The video on the board was words, and the word had one letter highlighted in the middle. And the word itself changed, and the letter that was highlighted changed. Do you remember that video, Jim? If you can find that video, that'd be awesome if we can play it now.
Yeah, looking maybe a bit though. Yep.
Yeah, it may be difficult. Just let me know. I can see your chats come through if you want to chat me, or just give me a thumbs up. I can see on my screen here. But this was amazing. And we were able to read at something ridiculous, like 200 words a minute. In fact, he said we could read a novel in an hour if we were able to watch this together. And I want to show you guys that because it really does highlight how people interpret words. So short words, simple sentences, no heavy, hefty jargon. One idea per paragraph, 2 sentences max before you hit enter, right? Literally 2 sentences before you hit enter. 1 email, 1 topic, 1 call to action every time. If you have more than 2 things to say, send 2 emails. Remember, I want you to send at least 3 emails a day, 3 emails a week right now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mobile first. Most of your list reads on their phone, format for that. And read it out loud before you send it, because if you stumble, I want you to rewrite it. So what an email body looks like. Here's the subject line: the drill I gave every new student on day 1. Last week I had a student who had been shooting for 15 years, never once practiced a draw from the holster at home. I gave him 1 drill, 10 minutes a day for dry fire. 2 weeks later, he cut his draw time in half, and here's the drill. Try it this week. Let me see how it goes. Andy, P.S. If you want to practice this live, I've got a class on Saturday. Guys, screenshot this. This is amazing. This is really good content that you guys can use in your classes right now. It's using a specific thing that you're using, right? Obviously, this only works if they are doing a holster draw, right? That's the class, right? But like, that's a real incentive. That's a real benefit. That's a real story. And that's how short a story can be. Now, I'm a big fan of adding more content and creating long form to it, but this is just a great way to get started. So once you sent the email, half your list never opens it, literally, because 20, 30, 40% of people are going to open it. Here's what I want you to do next. After you send the campaign, I want you to wait 48 to 72 hours. Then look at who did not write the email. Clone the campaign and change the subject line. That's it. Just clone the campaign and change the subject line. Then send it again just to people that didn't open. This is going to add 10 or 20% more people from the same email. And it's going to wake up a set of people that may not have opened. When I say wake up, add more people to your, we talked about your smart list last week. We want to add more people to our list of people who opened the email within the last 30, 60, and 90 days. This wakes people up. It gives them a second shot to open the email. Because they may have missed it the first time, might have been busy, might have been traveling, whatever, and a different subject line might actually catch them on a different day. And you're not spamming, you're giving them a second chance, right? I like to put in front of it, ICYM, in case you missed it. ICM, I can never say it out loud, but in case you missed it. And that gives them a second shot at opening it. So to physically do that, and screenshot this too, because I'm just going to fly through this, right? To do this in Momentum HQ, go to marketing, emails, campaigns. Find that campaign you already sent and click the three dots up to the right next to it. Click clone. Open that clone campaign, change the subject line, but keep everything else the same. Under recipients, select your smart list, but add a filter that the last email opened was not the one that you just sent, right? Was not the last version of this. That targets people who didn't open the last version of this email. Schedule or send immediately. And that's it, right? Super easy tip. So screenshot this for future reference or come back to this video in the vault so that you've got it, because I've got to keep going. Now, let's talk about stats, because your stats are going to tell you the truth. Learn how to read them. And we talk a lot about open rates, but the other stats matter too. And again, we brought up Mike's stats here. This is what it's going to look like in Momentum HQ. Here's your open rate right here. We can also see some of his last top performing emails. Well, the reason they're getting an open rate of 100% is because these are automations, right? But you want to see your delivered, bounced, unsubscribed, spam complaints. And here's the deal. Open rate, we already talked about. Awesome for Mike to get 40.54%. But if it is low, your subject line needs work. Your list may be too cold, which means you are emailing people that have not opened your email in the last 30, 60, 90 days. That's the biggest driver that we can do, even bigger than subject line. You might be hitting spam for all of the reasons that we covered before today. Your click-through rate, industry average is 1% to 2%, good is 2% to 4% really, and 5% above is like, again, you're writing home to your parents, telling them that you're the best marketer ever, and I'm hiring you on my team to do awesome things. So if your click rate is too low, your call to action is buried or unclear or not motivating enough. You may have too many links, just pick one. The offer doesn't match the email content. Right? The offer needs to be congruent. We talk a lot about congruency. Bounces are emails that couldn't be delivered for whatever reason. Maybe the email doesn't exist anymore. Maybe the email is too full. So maybe it's a temporary soft bounce. The server was down at that moment. Momentum HQ is going to retry. So 7 out of 634, 1.1% is acceptable, but you want it to be below 2. 2 is absolutely too high. High bounces are going to hurt your reputation over time and get your domain permanently flagged. Momentum HQ is automatically going to suppress hard bounces, not soft bounces, but hard bounces after they occur. A hard bounce is, again, the email didn't exist, or there was a typo in the email. You've been blocked from that email. Soft bounce might be that their inbox is full, the server down, something along those lines. So Momentum HQ will attempt on a soft bounce. Unsubscribe, pretty simple. Right? We talked about last week how to get them to unsubscribe from that smart list itself, but unsubscribing from your whole list is what we want to avoid, but it's inevitable. This happens, whether it's a member or, our shooting range or somebody that's taken our class in the past, it just happens, right? It doesn't matter. Your unsubscribe rate should be less than a half a percent. Less than a half a percent. If it's not, your content isn't matching what they want. Your spam complaints needs to be 1/10 or 1/10 of a percent or lower, right? 1/10 of a percent or lower, 1 per 1,000 emails. And this is a hard stop. Momentum HQ automatically triggers a suspension on your email send for 24, then 48, then 72 hours if your spam complaints are too high. It automatically does it. I've got no control over it. That's the email gods behind the system that's keeping, because what happens is everybody in this room is using the same IP address. And so if JB sends out emails that are spam, it affects Karen's business. And it affects Charlie's ability to get emails in an inbox. And so my system automatically, and there's nothing I can do about it, it's just built in. It will suspend your email system if you are sending spam complaints that are coming too high. So everybody screenshot this. And what I want you to do with this is I want you to print this out and I want you to have this taped to your computer, desk somewhere, right? Just tape it to your desk at all times. I want you guys to have this at all times so that this is your goal that you're working on at all times. If your open rate is not consistently 30 to 40%, or at the very least under 20%, under 20% is really bad. And I'm not seeing Slack messages from you every week trying to fix this. That's a problem. Don't try to fix this on your own. Ask us. We're here to help. Click-through rate, 2 to 5% is tough. It's tough. I'm telling you, it's tough. Under 1%, it's bad. 2 to 5 is what you want. Bounce rate, under 2. Unsubscribe, under half. And spam complaint, literally 1/10 of 1%. Any complaints, investigate them immediately and make sure you never email them again. So everything from today, subject line, under 50 characters, as well as when you guys are making your Facebook ads and you guys are doing your primary text, you also have underneath your primary text, your headline text. That is also the same here. Under 50 characters, curious, not clever, clear, not cute, human, not corporate. Opening line, pull them in immediately. No, I hope you're doing well. Body, short, simple, sweet, one idea, mobile first. Spam words, no free, act now guaranteed, click here. Write for humans first. First person, contradictions, read it out loud. Resend those emails. Clone it, change the subject, send it to non-openers. Open rate, 40%. That's what I want you guys to have. There's no reason we shouldn't have that on Momentum HQ. Industry average, 20 to 25%, but 40% is what I want you to have. We are not normal marketers. We are the best. So to be the best, we have to get the best results. Click-through rate, 2 to 5, hard to get, but I want you to do it. Bounces under 2. Spam complaints, keep it 0. No exceptions. So what I want you to do is write and send one email to your 30-day engaged list today. Whether it's your previous students, I don't care if you have 5, 10, 15, 20, or 5,000. I want you to send an email to your list, your 30-day engaged list today. If you don't have anything to sell them, perfect. That's a give, not an ask.